All right. So today I'm joined by a very unique athlete that is quite the combination. He's a defensive lineman slash kicker. His name is Braydon Ary of the Idaho Horsemen. Braydon, how are you doing today? And thank you for joining me.
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I definitely cannot complain. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
It's Airy.
Ary. Okay, sorry about that. I
You're
apologize.
good.
Should have asked you that before we got on camera. So before we get into the interview, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself in your own words, and then we'll fill in details after that.
My name is Braydon Ary. I was born in Boise, Idaho. Raised in Caldwell, Nampa, Parma, kind of all around. Been playing football since I could walk, pretty much. Played at Valley View High School. Went and played at a week of college football, and I'm only 19, so the story's still going. Pretty young.
No doubt, no doubt. That was one of the reasons that I talked to you before, that I wanted to highlight your career in particular, because I think there's a very select few people that can manage what you've been able to manage. And I think jumping straight from high school into the professional football level is something that is just unheard of at this level. But it's an amazing opportunity for you, because I feel like you're going to get better development from the coaching that you receive at the AWFC level than maybe you would have gotten at a small college.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And also just being around the guys, in the AWFC, it's not the pure caliber like the IFL and stuff like that. But we do have a lot of guys that either come down from the IFL and they're playing their last few years of football, or the majority of the guys they're looking to go up to the IFL. So you get to be around that group of guys, and they're all in their mid 20s and stuff like that, and they've just you hear about their journey, and a lot of them they're bouncing across the country, just looking for their opportunity. So it's kind of crazy, and like some of the guys' work ethics, they're insane. That's crazy. It's a lot different than high school, and definitely a lot different than college.
Agreed, agreed. I mean, I heard a statement the other day by a player that I spoke with, and he said, you work for the job you want, not necessarily the job you have. So sometimes you got to work your ass off even harder because you're not in the NFL yet, and you're trying to get there. So that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So I wanted to speak on the fact that, like we just talked about, the AWFC seems very open to bringing in younger players that may not have taken the college route. Do you believe this is an asset for you, for guys like yourself who maybe, college isn't for them, or whatever reason it doesn't work out for them?
100%. For some of us, it's just the fact that for me, my first intentions was I just wanted to play football. And I didn't want to play with a bunch of I don't know guys that didn't really care very much, like in the semi-pro teams, and then risk getting hurt and not having like benefit afterwards. And yeah, it just gives us an opportunity. So guys who aren't very school smart or something like that, I know if you put in the effort, you can be school smart and stuff like that. But for some people, school's just not for them. They have a hard time learning and stuff like that. So the AWFC letting guys in at mine and that kid from TriCity's age just is, I think every if you have the talent, you should be able to play. It shouldn't matter about your age, as long as you're mature enough to hang out with the older guys and stuff like that. And for me, I mean, I've been working since construction since I was 17, so I mean, I'm working with older guys all the time. So coming in and hanging out with all the older players and stuff like that, it's no much different. They're all a bunch of little kids on the inside, but they don't just have the main focus. They want to get out of there and make it up to the bigger leagues.
Agreed, agreed. I love how you put that, because at the end of the day, um, a job like construction, I would imagine, is not all that dissimilar from the locker room vibe. You're going to talk to guys on a construction site like you would probably talk in a locker room. So that makes a
Yep.
lot of sense. I mean, I've had that same experience. College was not for me, so I jumped right into the working world as well. So I mean, it definitely makes sense. Sometimes it's just not. It's not for you, or like you said, the situation is just not right. Like in your particular situation, I don't know how much you really want to speak on that.
Oh, I mean, I got it right here. I'll shout him out. I work for my quarterback for the Horsemen. Actually, we do finish carpentry. So, and one of our wide receivers, we all work together with a bunch of other guys. You know, it's it's all right. It's actually more than all right. It's pretty great. You know, but I'd like to make it up to a league, where you get paid enough where you don't got to work. But the construction vibes are definitely, you know, we all act like a bunch of little kids on the job site, and then once we got to get to work and stuff, we know we got to put our foot down and get our job done. It's the same thing on the football field, hanging out in the locker room or off the field and stuff like that. You can joke around, be little kids. I mean, you have to know that you're a professional, so you can't go out and do dumb stuff. But in a sense, as soon as we step on the field, it's business.
No doubt. That's interesting. That I like how you and multiple teammates are working together off the field as well.
Yeah.
Definitely builds the chemistry on the field. Imagine when you're more or less with these people all the time.
Yeah.
So during your junior year of high school, you're handed accolades for both positions you play. I mean, we spoke about it before. You played defensive lineman and kicker. So you make second team All-State at defensive end and first team All-Conference at kicker. How did you feel about your performance that year?
I felt really good about my performance. My coach, when my head coach Lane Coffin, when he came up to me and told me that I'd got second state, he said, "You're not going to want to hear this." And I said, "Oh, what?" Because I was like guaranteed first state. Like I led the entire state in tackles or in sacks, like all divisions. I was a number one or number two leader in tackles for D line in all divisions, and I was doing it on like a good like momentum. And when they told me that I got second team All State, I was pretty put a little bit of a fire in me. I was pretty upset. I was of course grateful, grateful to get second team honors. But there's a couple guys on there, because they're 6 inches taller than me, but they had half the stats as me. There was a couple of 6'5" guys on there that got first team All State over me. So I was upset, but in the end, I'm grateful for it because it made me work harder. It made me really mad, and my whole life, playing sports, you get looked over when you're only 5'10". It's not. They're like, can't teach size, but yeah. So I was bummed out, but it did definitely put the fire in me to work harder and accomplish what I actually accomplished the next year.
Absolutely. I mean, your senior season was just as amazing, if not better. I mean, quite in particular, your junior and senior seasons, if my stats are correct. So bear with me if they're not. You racked up an insane 26 and a half sacks and 50 tackles for a loss during these two seasons.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, so what happened during these two seasons that just allowed you to dominate in this fashion?
Uh, I'm pretty much just it was football all the time. I give props to one of my buddy Land Larson. He's playing at UC Davis right now in California. Big Sky's D1. Junior year, I just kind of fell into his footsteps and his work ethic. Freshman and sophomore year, I was more like, oh, this is fun and stuff like that, and I'm gonna go to college. I thought it was guaranteed and stuff like that, and I was letting my grades slip and stuff like that. And then my buddy Lynn, he kind of pulled me to the side one time, and he's kind of like, "You just need to get your shit together." And he's been like my older brother since I was a little kid. We've been playing ball together since like kindergarten, and so I took that serious, and I just kind of junior year switched my classes up and started grinding a little bit more. Was working off the field more. Just it came down to like little things. Like at lunch, I wouldn't sit with my friends. Me and Land, we'd go sit in his truck and eat lunch and watch film, or sit in his or go up to one of our teachers and play computer games. Just get away from everybody and really focus on school and football. And I felt like I developed a lot more as my body developed a lot more. You kind of junior senior year, you get a little bit bigger, stronger, faster. And I was working with Talon Sudbick, my D line coach, a lot, and footwork and stuff like that, and working on. Since I was a shorter defensive end, I had to be very powerful, low center, and good footwork. So it was just a lot of work and not a lot of doing fun stuff to get to where I was at junior and senior year.
Absolutely. That makes sense. I mean, when did you come to the determination that you could make it at the professional level straight out of high school?
Uh, really not until Chris, our head coach, told me that I made the team. I was just went out there. I actually went out to for the Horsemen just to kick. I just went and tried out. We had a private tryout for kicking. It was me and two other kickers, and I ended up making the team as a kicker. And then I was just I wanted to play kicker because I didn't want to get hurt playing D line and not be able to work. And so little little funny story. We come up on the first game. I didn't get selected for the first game to kick. They selected a different kicker. So I got to sit on the sidelines and watch. And then come the second game, we what was it? Who we played the second game? Can't remember who we played the second game, but I got called up to play the second game, kicked and everything. But that earlier that week in practice, I had snuck into some D line reps, and the D line coach really liked me. So he threw me in the game. And our defensive coordinator, he was so busy doing other stuff during the game, he didn't even notice that I played. Well, I had 2 sacks in the first game while kicking, too. And they pulled me off to the side. We did this little event for a special needs flag football team. We went and hung out with them and played against them. They ended up kicking our butt. It was pretty funny. And they both the coaches pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you got to choose what position you want to play. You can't play D line or and kicker." And I was like, "Well, why not?" I was like, "I do good at both." And they're like, "We signed you as a kicker, so either you're gonna play kicker or you're good at D line, so you can go play D line." And I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll just stick with kicking." And then like 2 days later, my head coach came up and he's like, "So you think you can play kicker and D line?" I was like, "Yeah, I know I can." And he was like, "Okay, I'll give you a shot." And then it worked out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm curious, your head coach is Chris Reynolds, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard a lot about him, and basically everybody who talks about him seems to say one thing, that football matters above all else. Is that true?
No, not true. His family comes first,
Well, oh,
definitely.
sorry. I
He's
should
a
have said family and football, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But basically it's family, then football, and then, winning. That's what's most important
yes,
to him.
yes.
Gotcha.
Chris is very big on. He's a. I mean, his whole life, if you just look on his backstory, it's always been football, and he was a good player too. He played professional overseas and came back here, started a couple leagues, and this is the league that's just really took off, and he's done a really good job with it.
Agreed, agreed. I think it's a solid platform like we spoke about for young players who are trying to get their foot in the door, or players who just need to get film or whatever it may be. So we talked about your ability to play defensive line, kicker. I'm curious, are there any other positions you have played or would feel comfortable playing professionally?
Yeah, definitely fullback. I played the in indoor. You don't really have a fullback, but I could play a power back. We had I think my senior season. I had a knee injury, so I didn't play running back all season, but I was supposed to, and I played in the last state playoff game, and I think I had 150 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and that. And then I played tight end. My dad worked with me when I was little because I was a big little kid, so my dad always was trying to develop me as a tight end because he thought I was going to be a lot taller than I ended up being. So I I have really good hands. So I played like I have 7 or 9 career touchdowns in high school receiving from tight end. I didn't get the ball very much, but they just mainly used me as blocking. But I played a little bit of linebacker, yeah, linebacker, tight end, and running back, but nothing else.
Gotcha. I mean, so basically every skill position outside of wide receiver and maybe defensive back, quarterback, I guess.
Yeah.
So without beating around the bush, I mean, you're a little bit undersized at 5'10", 250. What are some techniques you've learned to overcome this size difference?
Low man always wins. That's really the biggest thing. I I will choose to go over a 6'6", 200 and 290 pound dude. I'll choose him every day over a 6 foot or 6'1", 290 pound dude. Because at the end of the day, the big tall guy's gonna win a few reps, but I'm gonna win a lot more reps against him because I get way lower than him. I can get around the edge faster than him. Just hitting him, my center of gravity is lower. I'm gonna be pushing towards his hips when he's trying to get down and push me. And I mean that showed a lot in high school. We had a guy named Guard Memlar. He's playing at University of Washington right now, the Huskies. And I played him my junior year, and they had this big thing. He didn't let up sacks all 4 years against anybody. He's like 6'7", almost 300 pounds. So he's a really good football player. But junior year, when we played Middleton, I had 3 sacks on him. So it just proved that I played better against bigger guys, and I enjoy playing against bigger guys more. Like we have Nick Eden for the Idaho Horsemen. He plays center, and he is got the same height as me, about 280, and he puts the work on at practice. I give him a lot of credit for developing myself when I was with the Horsemen. He's just a lower center of gravity guy, and they're a lot harder to move. And just when you're 5'10", you got your short arms and stuff like that. I mean, I don't have short arms, but I got short arms and a 6'6" guy. It's just footwork, handwork, and low guy always wins. Those are the big key components.
Absolutely. I'm glad you spoke about leverage because that was one thing I was going to mention. That and bend. I mean, you always hear about coaches talking about how they want pass rushers about 6'3", no, not really taller than that, because the bigger guys have an art issue bending the edge. Well, that's not going to be an issue with you. Typically, you're going to get around guys no problem. So I definitely think that's an asset for you. I'm kind of curious, what are some NFL players that you looked to kind of emulate their game?
Definitely Aaron Donald. Small guy who's just dominated the league, obviously. Von Miller, he's just a guy that people, when he came around, you wouldn't have expected a guy like him to do what he did, but he's just an incredible speed rusher. He has power too, but his speed rushes and his handwork are incredible. JJ Watt, his toughness. I played through a lot of injuries. When I broke my back for the Horsemen, I finished the game. I didn't know I had a broken back, but I finished the game and then was out for the rest of the season after that. But JJ Watt was always playing through some crazy injuries, broken noses. I think he tore his labrum in his shoulder, and that's why he wore that big old brace, and he still played. But I would say those 3 guys. I'm still watching Von Miller and Aaron Donald, obviously, and JJ Watt's coming into his last maybe 2 seasons. So watching those guys grow up. Clay Matthews, I loved Clay Matthews. I'm a big Packers fan. So watching Clay Matthews go out there and beat up on the quarterbacks is pretty funny, especially when they started to implement that roughing the passer rule.
Yeah. Okay, definitely. So I may or may not have told you this off camera. I grew up in Denver. So obviously I watched the Broncos. Huge fan of Von Miller. How could you not be? But another guy that we had in Denver for a long time is actually very similar size to you, Elvis Dumervil. Did you ever watch any of his career?
Mm-mm.
So he's about 5'11", 270, and he had, I believe, an 11-season career in the NFL. So, I mean, he definitely was one of those guys that, he made a living off being a technician, much like yourself. So it definitely makes sense that you're talking about guys that they're more, how do I want to say this without saying it in a bad way? They're obviously athletic freaks, but at the same time, they're very football IQ. They have a high football IQ. They're like students of the game. That's how they dominate in the level that they do. So I definitely think that if you haven't seen any Elvis Dumervil film, you should definitely go check him out.
Definitely have to check him out.
So talk to me about some of your biggest strengths as a player, whether it be as a defensive lineman or a kicker.
Honestly, I think my biggest strengths are just to be able to come into a program, and I already feel like I'm a leader. I think a dream job when I'm older and done with football is definitely to be a coach someday. I love helping out some of the guys. Like when I came to the Horsemen and I was kicking, I went over to the D-line and was doing some reps, and we had a new D-line coach that he knew a bit, but you could tell he was new. And so I was helping him out, showing him some moves I learned from college, or from high school. Talon said that because he would go to like camps for like the Browns and stuff, just to watch the coaching clinics and stuff. So I definitely say leadership and strength. I was blessed to have good genes for being able to get strong. And then kicking wise, I feel like a lot of kickers are afraid to go down the field and make a hit, and that's probably one of my favorite things to do. Is just hit. So I'm a kicker that like that Penn State kicker. I like to compare myself to him a lot. Just he's got a little bit of a bigger leg than me. Uh, you know, he was an insane hitter and not afraid to just go down the field and make a play, but also can come up clutch in key moments.
Definitely, definitely. What are some negative things that scouts will point out on film that you're already working to correct?
Uh, Negative things. I like to spin a lot on the line. I got a really bad habit of that. If my first one or two moves don't work, I'm gonna throw a spin move, and a lot of times it works. But there's also if I get like playing against in high school, teams that would watch film a lot. As soon as I'd spin off that, I'd run into another guy. They'd come up to a double team. I'd say spin, and not anymore in high school. I had my junior year. I had a problem jumping off sides. I just wanted to go. I just wanted to go, 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 go. But senior year, I didn't really have a problem with that. Um, Another thing people could point out, I don't know, I'm pretty good. um, I'd say if they watched the film from my Horseman season, I definitely did not go into Horseman season in shape like I was my junior and senior year because I had almost like a whole year off that I just didn't do anything. I just worked, eating gas station food while doing construction and stuff. I did get out of shape. I got back into football shape pretty well, but I definitely didn't show the motor that I had in junior year and senior year, and I was tired. I'd be out of shape and stuff like that. But I'm definitely getting back into shape, eating healthier right now because I want to move up. Now that I've decided that I want to continue climbing up levels, I definitely know I got to put in the work and stuff. But if they look back on the film, they could say that, like there's a few plays where I'd miss a tackle and it's a short field, so they're already 10 yards away from the end zone, like 30 yards away from me. So I would just get up and walk. But other than that, I feel like I put on a pretty good show.
Agreed. Agreed. So speaking of which, I'm gonna put on some of your junior season highlights. Unfortunately, as I told you off camera, I was not able to get current highlights. I will try and rectify that situation and add them to the film if I can later on. But
Okay.
here is the 2020 highlight film from your junior season. So you'll definitely see some of those spin moves that we were just talking about. So I think I have an idea what answer you're going to go with this. But talk to me about your favorite pass rush move to use. What do you lean on, or why do you lean on this move in particular?
Um, if I'm rushing inside, I definitely like to take a hard outside jab, come in and hit them with a chop. You know, the offensive linemen, if they guess and they go that way, they're already set that way, and then they'll come and they'll shoot their arms, and it's just a quick chop, rip, and you're through. If I'm rushing outside, I'm low, so I really like dip and rip. Just dip, get deep, low, and rip, and get under them as fast as possible. And then smaller, like in high school, I can't say I would, I had really good competition, but there was a few schools that we didn't have the best competition. So, just strength bull rush, just plow them over. There's Land Larson. That one finished, he picked that, ran up for like a 97-yard touchdown.
All right. So how did the opportunity with the Horsemen come about? Was it a situation where you were reaching out to coaches and then Chris was the guy who gave you a call back, or?
So, my defensive line coach tried out for them a few years before me, and he kind of just told me, he's like, hey, you could probably go play for them if you want to keep playing football, unless you want to play semi-pro. And I was like, so I shooted Chris a text on Instagram, and I went and tried out. That's pretty much all it was. It was pretty fairly easy.
Definitely. Interesting. So you end up playing for your hometown Idaho Horsemen. I want to talk about how the team took care of their athletes. I mean, how were the amenities provided by the Horsemen?
Oh, they're great. They're great. The guys up at the out of state guys, the out of state players, they got this really. I went and hung out with some of them at it. This really fancy, like it was almost like a little hotel. I mean, it was a house that was overlooking downtown Boise. It had a nice backyard, a nice front yard, but it had a full like two houses. It had like 4 or 5 bedrooms downstairs with a kitchen, a laundry room, and everything. And then upstairs there was also um, four bedrooms upstairs, a full kitchen, um, all the stuff there. Um, they got food and all that stuff. I think the hardest part was some of them getting rides because only a few guys brought cars, so they'd all have to like bunker up in a car to ride to practice. But practices were good this year. We played, I'd say, 99% of our practices on Meridian High School's turf, so we got to practice on turf all the time. And then when like they'd have like a lacrosse game or something like that, we'd just go over to their football practice field, which is grass. So nothing bad about that. The atmosphere, the atmosphere is great. Coming into game day, uh, getting to hang out in the Idaho Center and stuff like that. I mean, for some of the other guys, it's a lot more fun. I mean, for me, it's like I grew up there. My mom did rodeo, my sister did rodeo, so I grew up in the Idaho Center kind of. But I think it's pretty fun. You get walk in and feel like that's when you really hits you that like you're actually a professional athlete. Like, I'm not getting paid millions of dollars and there's not 20,000 fans, but when you walk in and you see a stadium that's just built around that football field and you come from a high school stadium where the rivalry side is this big and then your side's that big, but it's just, there's not an intense amount of people. And it's they definitely take care of us good. I got hurt and I still came to all the games and practices and was still treated pretty good.
Agreed, agreed. I've heard Chris Reynolds is, like we talked about before, all about football. I mean, other than his family, of course. But yeah, so it sounds like he's taking care of his team the way he should. So I'm kind of curious. The Horsemen were rumored to be trying to chase a spot in the IFL long term. Have you heard anything about the potential of them moving up, or are they content in the
Uh,
AWFC?
yes, we do want to get our fan levels up and stuff like that, and we're trying to promote a lot more because we do. Uh, Chris does want to get the Idaho Horsemen up in the bigger leagues. Yeah, definitely IFL is a huge goal to get us up there, but we know that we gotta sell more tickets, and definitely you gotta get that. The fans are really what gets you up there. I mean, you can
Okay.
play really good. You can play really good and get up there, but if you have an average of 5 or 6 thousand fans, the NFL, teams like that, uh, programs like that, or whatever there'd be, um, they see that fan base coming in, and all they see is money. So it's definitely Chris has talked about how he wants to be up there someday, but we definitely are content in the AWFC as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Chris actually helped found the AWFC, as we kind of briefly touched on a little bit ago. So, I mean, with it being sort of his baby, I would imagine it'd be hard to step away entirely. So, it'd be
I,
interesting to see what would happen in that situation.
yeah, I think definitely the four base teams of the AWFC. He owns so yeah he did he owns the whole league. He started the league and he owns the Oregon Storm and the Horsemen, but he just runs stuff for the Horsemen and he kind of hires people to do the other stuff, and it worked out. They built a good league. I think if I'm correct, he wants to be able to take the Wenatchee, TriCity, Horsemen, and the Storm. He wanted to build those up to big enough teams to take up to a next level, not just the Horsemen. Obviously, the Horsemen are his baby. He had coaches that, and he doesn't do any. He just provides money to the Storm. He doesn't do coaching or anything like that. So You know, sometimes people like to say like, or like guys that are on our team that let's say they don't understand how it works. They think because Chris owns the Storm or something like that, that he gets to control their players and stuff like that. And Chris tries to tell them, you know, that's not how it works. You know, I just I provide like footballs and stuff like that. You know, because I'm the owner of the league. So he does a good job, but he's got a lot on his plate. That's for sure. He handles it pretty well.
No doubt, no doubt. I honestly think, like we talked about before, the AWFC is a great platform for young players. And really, that's what it seems like it's all about. Every coach I talk to in this league has talked about getting their players to the next level, which is amazing because normally it seems like coaches don't really want to discuss that. They don't want to lose their best players, but in the AWFC, it doesn't seem like that's the case. They're hoping that their best players are going to the next level because that's what everybody's trying to accomplish at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I mean we had a guy Isaac Hurd. He came down from Hawaii and played quarterback for us for a little bit with, and him and Austin would kind of rotate. And he went and played for the Bay City Panthers. So, and we made a big Facebook post over and everything like that. We were all super happy for him. There was no like, oh dang it, there goes a guy. You know, it was more of like a that's great because he's going to be getting a better opportunity and getting his name further out there in front of a bigger crowd and stuff like that.
Not to mention, hopefully, drawing more eyes from the IFL to the AWFC for the
Yeah.
future.
Yep.
So, what are your goals for the 2023 season?
I'd say my goals for the 2023 season. I definitely want to break my personal sack record at 15 and a half. I'd like to put a between 17 and 20 possibly this year. 50 tackles and hopefully and kicking. You know, I'm pretty confident about my kicking. I mean, I have.
Oh, bear with us. It looks like we got a little bit of a connection issue at the moment. Uh-oh.
Would be going out there and getting a championship. You know, TriCity's built to. I'm like, I'm new to the league, but I would say like personally, I'm not much of a shit talker. I'm more proud of the Tri-City because they started off as just nothing team, and they've just built themselves into a two-time AWFC champion team, and that's pretty good. And they have a good team. You know, I got to play against them and stuff like that, and just you can tell that they're all together and they're all in. But I definitely think that the since the Horsemen, we lost to Wenatchee this year and stuff like that. People got to understand we had a lot of injuries, so that's where the competitiveness will come out in me a little bit. You know, if I was there, if we had a few other guys, we had our key wide receiver, two of them were hurt. You know, we lost a running back. There was a lot of stuff that happened that could have changed a lot of things. But yeah, definitely biggest goal win big championship, and then my personal goals can see if I got them at the end of the year or not.
There you go. I like it. I like it. So I'm sure you've heard. Obviously, Tri-City is kind of getting picked apart by the CIF and other leagues like that. So maybe the competition is leveled back down a little bit when it comes to the parity in the league next season. Maybe we don't see an undefeated squad next year.
I don't know. You can't ever count them out because two-time championship. They can lose a bunch of guys to the IFL, but at the end of the day, they were the team that won last year. So no matter what, if they're going to be garbage or if they're going to be good, it's just a team that you're going to have to watch out for. Just like the Rams right now, they're not doing too hot, but they're expected to do really good because they won the Super Bowl. You always got to just can't ever count a team out. And that goes for Wenatchee also. Everybody kind of counted them out, and they came out and they started kicking ass.
Hey, you got a good point there. It's all about, well, actually, it's a lot about, there's many factors that go into it. I was going to say it's all about chemistry, but there's a lot more than that to it. So I'm going to get to my last question, which you kind of already answered before, but what's your future in sports outside of playing? I mean, you talked briefly about it earlier. You wanted to be a coach, or is broadcasting, writing, something like that, look in your future?
If I took the coaching route and I got to be a coach for a lot of years and stuff like that, I definitely think it would be fun to be able to broadcast games, not broadcast, announce games, kind of like the Sunday Night Football announcers and stuff like that. I think that would be a very very fun job, and I'm good at talking about football, so I feel like that would be a really good job for me. If that didn't work out, I'm very content with what I'm doing right now. Austin, he's got a really good company going, and I enjoy doing finished carpentry and maybe coach some high school on the side. Just kind of live a happy life.
There you go. I like it. I like it. It sounds like I don't want to say that you have low expectations, but you're content with life, which is a good thing. I mean, you should never, strive for so much that you're disappointed with where you're at, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people out there that got worse problems than me. So
There you go. I like it. I like it. So before I let you get out of here, is there anybody you want to shout out, anything like that?
shout out my boy Nick Eden. He just signed with the Wyoming Mustangs, so that was pretty cool. He just signed that a couple days ago. Um, and just you, thank you for the opportunity. Let me come on here and talk and kind of get my story out there a little bit.
I appreciate that, man. We'll definitely have you back on at another time, and we might have somebody else coming on here soon to announce they signed with the Wyoming Mustangs as well. So I might have to hook up with your boy Nick and get him connected with some other guys that I've got coming on in the future.
All right.
Definitely. So have a great night, man, and great rest of your day. Keep in touch for sure. I'll definitely keep passing out your information to coaches and scouts, etc. We'll try and get you that CIF or IFL deal as soon as possible.
Sounds good, man.
Definitely. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you later.
All right, you too.
As well. All right, so that was Braydon Ary, defensive lineman / kicker for the Idaho Horsemen. So if you didn't quite hear this portion of the interview, he did have a broken back this past season, but recovered from that. He is ready to go. He's ready to play again. He's looking for his next opportunity in 2023, whether that's with Idaho again or at the next level. With him only being 19 years old, he is at the age requirement for the XFL, for the USFL, and that's where he would like to be, back in the outdoor game. Much like most of these indoor players, that's why they get into the indoor game. They're trying to strive for the next level. And right now, the USFL and the XFL are providing opportunities for guys like this, and with the XFL draft coming up quickly, a guy like Braydon Ary, where you can bring him in and he's very young, you can develop him over, a period of multiple years maybe. That's an asset to these XFL teams, to these USFL teams. They need these guys that they can bring in and develop. And a guy like Braydon, who has not played college football, he's got a lot of room to develop. He's very young, he's very green, but in a good way. He's still got the athletic traits. He's still gotten coached at a high level where he was at and in the AWFC. So if he's to hop up to the USFL or the XFL level, it's just going to be the next step in his progression. He's going to receive even better coaching. He's only going to get better as a player over the next couple years. So he's definitely a guy that if you're a coach watching this, you want to give him an opportunity. Like I said, he's very young, but at the same time, he's football oriented. You heard him talk about it right here. He has dedicated his life to making it to the next level. So with that being said, give that man a chance, give him the opportunity he needs, and he will prove you right. I guarantee it. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one, which will be in about 5 minutes with guard Zach Thomas of the Naz Wranglers, the IFL champions in the 22 season. If you haven't caught that link, it will be live here on the YouTube channel shortly.